It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Osdol.
It's car con carne. Happy Friday. I'm James Van Osdol. Car con carne. Still in quarantine con carne, sponsored by C&H Financial Services. C&H offers a variety of products ranging from traditional merchant accounts to a zero-cost payment processing solution, which eliminates expenses tied to accepting credit cards. C&H also offers cost-effective commercial lending programs, which can help you get your business the money it needs to make it through these unprecedented times. To learn more, contact C&H Financial Services at 855-600-2437 or go to chfs.us. This right here, this is a podcast about a girl. Dr. Frank from the Mr. T Experience joining me from the West Coast today. A pleasure to meet you. Thank you for doing this on a Friday.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So the timing of this, 30 years, the Mr. T Experience has been distilled into this compilation, MTX Forever. You went through the, what sounds like brutal process of tracking down all the masters and back catalog to piece this together and move forward with reissues.
That's right. Yeah, it was a lot more challenging than I expected. When I idly first began, it was the fact that it was so hard, it was so difficult, made me decide that it was worth doing, because at the beginning of it, I just thought, we'll pull some tapes out and see what happens, and who knows, it doesn't matter much anyway. But when I realized that it was a project of preservation rather than just a lark, then I had to get serious about it. And it was when you're an archivist of an incomplete archive that is mislabeled or unlabeled in many segments, it's very challenging, and I probably should have hired a real librarian to do it, but I'm the only employee I have, so it was left to me. And in the end, I managed to get, at least as far as the mixed masters, I managed to track down almost everything. There are some minor gaps, but mostly that's there. The multi-track stuff is a whole other can of worms that we haven't dealt with in this phase yet, but that's a nightmare to come.
Of all the stuff you found, was there some stuff that was unusable, or was everything salvageable?
We were lucky, and we also got a really talented, I don't know what the official word for the kind of engineer she was, but her name was Jessica Thompson, and she, did the process of capturing the audio from the tapes when they, you have to go through a process to prevent them from disintegrating before you capture what's on. Sometimes it didn't happen with any of our tapes, but sometimes that one time is the last time the tape can ever be played. And I've seen deteriorated tapes on machines before, where you can just see it shedding little bits of the tape as it goes through through by the head. And so it's horrible. And so you have to do a thing called baking, which is basically you just apply heat on them to solidify it before that final run. And there's a way to do it that is effective, and a way to do it that's less effective. And I've seen George Horn, who's a great mastering engineer. I'm not sure that this method would qualify as best practices for a baking engineer, which there actually are baking engineers, tape baking engineers. He used a hairdryer on a tape once before. He said, how old is this tape? And it's about 10 years old. And he just opened a drawer, pulled out a hairdryer, and gave it the once over. But Jessica Thompson did a much more, involved process. Anyway, yes, it was everything that I gave her. She managed to salvage, although I think she had to do some reconstructive work to try to fill in some gaps, particularly with when there were when there were masters that only existed on digital, in a digital format, that strangely enough, it's the convenient, great, supposedly superior technology, but it has the most problems. And there are dropouts, and even when it's functioning well, apparently you can only get an approximation of what the master is, even under the best of circumstances, which makes you wonder, what's so great about it? The results from magnetic tape 100% of the time were better. So, and that was almost all of our stuff. We did very little digital recording and mixing and all of that stuff. But the stuff that was digital was the most problematic.
So Steve Albini was right all along, is what you're saying.
Well, to the degree that he championed analog recording, yes. I don't really care for the high end on his records though. So,
so beyond the labor, beyond like your Robert Langdon uncovering runes and putting them back together scenario here, what was it like forcing yourself to revisit your life in music, song by song, album by album?
It was really weird, but I did the first pass of it was not when I was not taking it very seriously. And actually I did this you said this is going out on Facebook Live, right? I did it on Facebook just when my band was inactive. I was a novelist only at that time, sort of in the mid 2006 to whenever we started up again, about 10 years after that. And I just was thinking, I'm going to go through these records and listen to them as though I had nothing to do with it. Just review them and just go through and try to see, with the goal of seeing, is it worth trying to do anything with this stuff? And I posted my thoughts and people made comments, and I did it. And it's all there. And I did reach the conclusion that it was probably worth doing something with it. But it was a weird experience. And not super pleasant, because there's a lot of cringe in 35 years of stuff recorded, not always under the best of circumstances. And I was definitely learning as I went along my role in this mostly as a writer. And then, I did the singing too. And both of those things I was not that good at. And I tried to learn, and, there's some embarrassing pitfalls along the way. But so what happened after doing that, and I thought, this would be kind of cool to try to release this stuff. I naively thought that, the first thing I thought was there's got to be some label that wants to put this stuff out that will, give me a bit of money for it. Has to be worth something, right? Was not the case, or at least it wasn't easy. And, that's a reflection of the fact that nobody buys anything anymore. Putting out records is no one knows how to make money from it. And also my standards were very exacting. I could have done it cheaply, where you just you get a CD and you do a cheap and dirty lacquer cut from it for a vinyl record, and then you put it up on the internet. And I didn't want to do that. I mean, but the next thing was once I came up with an arrangement to put these records out with Chris Thacker of Sounds Radical, I just kind of naively thought I wasn't sure who it would be, but I would just call someone and say, hey, I need the tapes for this. Can I come pick them up or something? But there wasn't a central authority anymore. The label wasn't there anymore. These tapes were in various garages, and and some of them were in even weirder places than garages. One tape wound up in a boot. One was in a pile of junk. One was under a couch at the Fantasy building in George Horn's room, where they had been for 20 years, for over 20 years. Oh my
God.
Yeah.
I don't know what's more astonishing about that. The fact that A, it was found, or B, that they haven't cleaned in 20 years.
Yeah. Well, he said they got rid of all their tapes long ago. But then he looked at me give me this very serious. I don't know if you know much about George Horn, but he's a very deadpan man, and he just looked at me and says, "I don't destroy masters." But I think actually what happened was it got kicked under the couch, and in the purges of the tapes was just not noticed. And but I went through this. I just called every studio that we'd ever been in. I even went to there was one studio, the really cheap place that we did a lot of remixes at, that was just up the street, and from where I live now, and I went up to the building where it was, that is now an apartment building, and I was like even kind of trying to see if I could poke around in the crawl space and stuff to see if I could. That didn't work, but George Horn came through.
That's amazing.
So and then in the end there were some gaps that were mostly, I think, caused by the fact that a lot of these tapes weren't very well labeled, and I think other bands probably have some of my tapes, as I had a few of their tapes. And when we get to the point of trying to listen to some of the unlabeled stuff, it may well be that I've got some, who knows, Green Day tapes or something, and Plaid Retina tape. And they probably have mine. One of the things, so they're the unlabeled ones, just where no one thought, is if I had a time machine, I would go back. First thing I would do before even killing Hitler is I would go back with a Sharpie and write the date and
archive
the
that shit.
Project. Because it's astonishing that people didn't think of it. I wasn't thinking about that at the time. But then also we were stupid and did all sorts of really stupid things with our labeling. Even when they are labeled, we had joke names for things. Sometimes when there was a tentative, there was a project that didn't have a title yet, and our producer Kevin Army would say, "Okay, what's it called?" And I would just say something. And probably the best illustration of this was the album Our Bodies Ourselves, which he asked me what it was going to be called, what the title of it, and I had just seen the film Bedazzled shortly before that, and the magic word that Dudley Moore says to when Peter Cook, the devil, tells him to make a wish is Julie Andrews. And so I said Julie Andrews. And so one of the reels that is, I'm sure, Our Bodies Ourselves, just is labeled Julie Andrews.
That's amazing.
So I'm not sure if there's anything missing of the Julie Andrews tapes, but it's quite possible that sometime, somewhere, someone's going to come across a tape and think that it's going to be a lost Julie Andrews recording, and then throw it on and be very unpleasantly surprised to hear me singing instead of Julie Andrews. And if that person is listening now, just give me a call, because I'd be happy to take it off your hands, because I'd really love to remix that record, and I'm not sure what the state of the multi-track tapes is for it.
Well, speaking of Our Bodies Ourselves, and speaking of Hitler, if you did go back in time and kill Hitler, you would eliminate one of my favorite lyrics. The odds are pretty good, but the goods are pretty odd.
Yeah,
that'd be unfortunate.
Wouldn't be worth it.
No, clearly.
I'd have to kill somebody else. I don't know. I don't have a beyond the Sharpie plan. I don't really have my full time machine strategy worked out.
Fair. So in putting together, again, we're talking to Dr. Frank of the Mr. T Experience. In putting together this compilation, MTX Forever, you could have, as some artists do, done it chronologically. You could have kicked off with something like Danny Partridge and just kind of gone through the years. I really like the balance of songs and eras, the way it's kind of threaded through here. So it
I'm
jumps
glad.
around.
That's good to hear. I considered all the different possible ways of doing it, including some ideas. Like I thought, maybe I'll do themed sides, or I just had also all bets were off. But I wanted to be something that could be listened to, that could suggest and sort of get across all the different eras and all the different in the sort of a broad picture of the history, but also be listenable straight through as an album. And that's quite challenging, given all of the parameters and all the things that you need to follow. And I had some rules. There had to be at least one song from each major release, each album, essentially. And, vinyl, which is the main, we're using that as the, everything. The vinyl is the main thing. And then all the other, the digital format and the CDs and everything just is sort of derived from that. And vinyl imposes some parameters that, you have to take into account. So it was an interesting thing. And we also solicited audience, people to submit their lists, and we kind of tallied those and took those into account of the, people's most prized songs or what they would like to see on a record like this. But the main point of it was, just because we're intending, if we live long enough, to reissue in kind of very special, hopefully very beautiful editions of the entire catalog. And this compilation idea was a way to see what would happen with all of these various tapes if we mastered them in 2019, 2020, and press them into vinyl now, and to see what would happen and what we were working with. And the results were, exceeded my expectations. We had Justin Perkins did the mastering, and it was just really broad. The new version, there are sounds on it that I wasn't aware were there, which is really kind of cool. I mean, there's a lot of it was a kind of revelatory in some ways, but so that was the experiment. And then after that, the idea is to move on to the other records. And the first of these has just come out, which is the Mr. T Experience and the Women Who Love Them, which was originally just a CD EP. So we could format these called CD5 because it was supposed to have 5 songs on it. It had 7 on it, and then there was an 8th that was an unlisted track on the B-side of the 7-inch version. So this is the first proper release of it, really proper meaning, vinyl. And, it was very carefully reconstructed and carefully mastered. That's the one, if I'm not mistaken, that's the DAT, the master of that. The only mix that survived was the one that
I can't believe the DAT
boot.
survived. I mean, I'm sitting on DATs from my radio career from the 90s. I'm like, well, those interviews are gone forever. I popped a couple of them in players, and they've just been like chewed up and warped.
Right. That's why if anybody is ever trying to do this, you need to get a really good engineer to administer it, because it's not, you don't want, I mean, when I started wrestling this, I'd be, I got a DAT machine. I've got, and you sometimes just takes one mishap. And then the DATs are notorious for having, digital dropout and everything. And we were just lucky that it worked. And another reason for doing that first, because it never, we're focusing on vinyl, and that was never released on vinyl, but also just the raw tape transfer sounded so good. So there's others in the pipeline that are going to need a lot more surgery, but that one pretty much, threw it on there, and it was like magic. And then we also were able to do it on a 12-inch 45 because the sides were short enough that was possible. And that's the ideal format for rock and roll music. It sounds incredible. So
let's talk about the release.
Pleased with how it happened.
You recorded that initially for Pocket Change, and this was a Mr. T Experience at the end of its rope. I mean,
basically, yes.
You're in the death throes at that point.
Right.
Rediscovering it was a revelation for you, and it's interesting how things changed after that.
Yeah. Well, I had it happened all, when we recorded that whole, we did all that recording, and then I was so demoralized at the end of it. And there was really nothing much going on in my world. And we just kind of put it aside for a while. I didn't even know whether it was ever going to come out. And then eventually, at the kind of urging of Chris Applegren, that was the beginning of my sort of, I don't know, codependent relationship with him at the Lookout Records. He wouldn't have been able to do any of the stuff I did without him, and he sort of dragged me into being more productive, and he finally talked me into getting. And then we couldn't locate the tapes without some effort. And then I finally listened to it, and it shocked the hell out of me. This sounds good. This actually sounds good. Okay, but I still thought when it was released that was going to be the swan song, and I was trying to think, still have a couple of years left on my GRE deadline to go back to graduate school, and I was sort of trying to plot a different future, and but it came out in the end, and sort of sparked a second wind, and then the band did reconstituted in a different form, a different three-piece form,
right.
and continued on to do things that that a lot of people really like. But then it was that happened all over again when I hadn't really listened to it in a while, and then I got the mastered version back, and then I was just shocked at how good it sounded. Something weird happened. There's something, you get some energy from adversity, maybe,
sure.
But also, you also get some having limitations can spark creative ways to work around them and to work with them, and we certainly had lots of limitations with this. I mean, the tiny budget was every time I'd show up to the studio. This is my recollection of it anyway. To the news that the tiny budget had been cut even further overnight. So but basically it was budgeted for a 7-inch, and that's why it was so we had to try to cram as many songs as possible, because this is like the last chance. So it was very rushed, and very that has something to do with how raw it sounds, I'm sure.
Fans point to and love that period in the mid to late 90s. Love Is Dead, Revenge Is Sweet, Alcatraz. Was that, by your estimation, was that a particularly fertile period for you?
Well, nobody loved Alcatraz, but yes, writing, it was a great period for writing. I was writing really, I had what I consider to be really good songs, and a lot of them, a lot more than wound up on the records. It was just I just what happened after it was a turning point in my world in a lot of ways. I had had some personal tragedies, and I had my father was in a long, slow decline with cancer, and he finally died, and various other kind of landmark events, and I made a decision just to really go for it. And what going for it meant was not trying to become a rock star, not trying to get signed or anything like that, but it was just really bearing down. It's like I'm better. I know I can write better songs than this half-assed stuff I've been kind of, which was good enough, but I knew I could really do it, and I did. And it was my full-time job was writing songs and doing these tours, and that was what was good about it. What was not so great about it was that it was in a way, those records, I consider them to be a victim of their own success, and we're talking modest success, not the kind of success that lets you buy a house, but the kind of success that lets you recoup your modest recording budget. But there was just pressure from all sides to do a very conservative approach to giving the people what they wanted, and people like this thing that sounds that, so that everything must sound like that. That can be very successful as a successful strategy for Fat Records. I just always recoiled from it, and I was not happy doing records that, even though I know that's why people like them, I was not happy doing records where all the songs sounded the same. And in the end, that's why I smashed. Basically, there was the Lookout Records plus Mr. T Experience machine that got really good at producing these generic pop punk songs that were very well written, but you couldn't always tell what was special about it. So I smashed up the machine and, built things up from the ground up. And then that was the album that everyone hated, which was Alcatraz. So it's a tale as old as time.
Everyone didn't hate it. I wrote a book about rock and roll is still like a signature song for you.
Yeah, no. People like that song. I mean, people like it now, but at the time, I always had the goal of trying to throw people for a loop. I thought that was the way to do it, and I always liked it when when artists I like would do that. But no, I don't feel like I didn't have enough purchase on the benefit of the doubt to sway most of the people who were fans who just really wanted the previous couple of albums ad nauseum, and which I get and would have been fine, but I just didn't want to do that. And so that's, people are kinder to it now, but everyone was disappointed. Fair. And then this was sort of, leading into although no one realized it at the time, it was the eve of destruction for the record business. And everybody, when they talked about that then, and when they talk about it now, they think, well, good riddance, the record business, all these bloated billionaire rock stars or millionaire rock stars and their terrible labels and everything. But it certainly affected the little people too. Sure. And it was not long before, people stopped buying records, and there was no, it was a very challenging sea to navigate this, where you have a very expensive thing that to produce, and it doesn't have any value. It has value in people's head, but nobody wants to pay dollars for it. So where do the dollars come to produce it? That was this question mark that just kind of was there for 15 years. And I don't know, just do it and hope for the best. It's like, it's free advertising, right? Free advertising for what? Well, hats, pogs, it was a strange thing. So yeah, that commercially doing a couple more Revenge's suites probably would have been a much, much better idea. But I think I would have driven myself. It would have driven me mad. So instead, they had Alcatraz and a solo album, which was mostly the overflow songs from Revenge's suite that, for one reason or another, what I wasn't able to make happen. I mean, the original conception of that could have been a double album, and it would have been it would have been very strong compositionally. I think it probably wouldn't have been liked very much. So, it's good. It's the way it happened is how it happened, but exactly. That is how it happened.
And not to belabor the issues or circumstances of the past, but really, ba 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 ba. That should have been a big radio song. That should have been ubiquitous.
I agree.
And
we tried as hard as we could. We tried to make it work. We tried to we made a video. We tried to get MTV to play it. They played it twice on their specialty show, which was once more than was promised. So that was good. 2 times. A lot of people discovered the band that way.
Yeah.
I remember, the time when I realized that there was something special about that song was when we had just recorded the record. It had just come out, but nobody really knew about it very much. It took a while for people to catch on to that Love Is Dead being something worthwhile at a different category than the other stuff that we've done. And we were on tour doing an arena tour opening for Green Day in Europe. That was they took some of the little bands on their tours
Yeah.
in those days, and very nice of them to do. So we did this tour of Europe, and I remember playing in, this, and there's actually some very poor sounding video of this that I put on my YouTube channel. But so playing in Rome, and we play that song to an audience that has no clue about it, and man, the response was insane. It was actually kind of scary. It was like 20,000 Italians yelling at you. It was like something that you wouldn't believe in. That's when I thought, okay, we got something here. We should do something with it. And we tried, but it didn't click on the level that maybe it, it could have or might have. But a lot of people really like it, and it was great to be able to remaster. We did a slightly different mix that I found on a tape. That was one of the fun things about this this project. There were these mix reels that had, it'd be like, I don't know, 12 different mixes of the tracks with various things. So we used one that had louder guitars, so that was satisfying to me.
And it's
MTX
impossible
Forever.
It's impossible for anyone to say the name of that song deadpan. You have to sing that title.
Well,
when you say
I've been saying it. The original name of that song was "It's the Little Things" or "The Little Things," and what I was informed that there was another band that had a song called that was a hit, and I don't remember what band it was. Some 90s alternative rock band. So
that'd be Bush. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was it. Bush, right.
Mm-hmm.
So they have got a song. And so, not that it would have mattered at all, but I was thinking of exciting. When we played it live, I used to say, I would announce it that way, as that's the joke. This song is called Ba 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 Ba, 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 ba. And it did get a laugh. And so then by the time, when it came time to record it, that's just what we called it.
That's awesome.
I've been told by people I consider the lyrics of that song to be pretty good, but I've been told, I've talked to people who said they think that the chorus is stupid because it doesn't have, it's just, but I think it gets across all it needs to get across. And
absolutely. And it's one of the songs, for anyone who's just joining us, it's one of the many songs on MTX Forever, this fantastic retrospective. It's on vinyl. All these songs have been painstakingly recovered and remastered. I guess that leads into the next question. And it's weird because we're in this awful dystopian pandemic time. But what's the future of Mr. T Experience? Where do you go from here besides remastering all the other stuff?
Well, we started through an unexpected set of circumstances having to do with my third novel, when I wanted to do some extra thing to promote it, and so I assembled. We've been completely inactive for since 2004, basically, when the final Lookout Records MTX record came out, Yesterday Rules, so this was just in 2014 when I had a theme song for the book King Dork Approximately, and so we reconstituted the band to record that, and then it was just one of those moments where I had just meant it to be the one off recording, but it was that thing where you kind of look up at each other and say, hey, this is a band, let's do more stuff. And so then we did, and we recorded a whole album eventually, King Dork Approximately, the album, which was our most recent thing that we put out, that was a soundtrack to the book, essentially, to the two King Dork books. And we've been, in that period, we've been doing quite a few shows, a handful of shows every year. I fully intended to keep doing that before the COVID thing hit. We were talking before, we had something we were trying to set up in Chicago for March. And then that rug was pulled out from under us like everything else. I still intend to, when it's possible, I don't know when that is, and if everyone's willing to continue to do it, because playing shows is fun, and it's been a great thing to do. And I've got a lot of songs that I intend to do another album if it's a little bit of a challenging or daunting prospect to how you make that happen. How you generate the budget for that sort of thing. Right. I would want to, I don't want to do a half-assed recording. I mean, that there was a time when, as you can hear, I used to do that all the time, but I don't want to do that. So I'd rather not do it if it's not going to be, it's not going to be real. But that means, I don't really think like I'm a very, I know a lot of people do crowdfunding and they go, oh, you can, for a $10,000 donation, there's the t-shirt that I wore in the recording of 1992's Book of Revelation. I mean, I don't see myself in that role. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's a version of that could work, or maybe, just maybe we'll figure something out. The future's unwritten, and maybe something will come of it. I've got some pretty good songs, what I think are some pretty good songs, and I have, whenever we get a chance to do it, I have it all mapped out, basically side A and side B of this potential thing. So hopefully it happens.
You mentioned your books. It feels like we've heard for a while now that King Dork was going to be a movie. Is that still?
It's been through so many different versions of setup and optioning and production, and I think for there's this term development hell that is basically most projects in Hollywood are in that category. I don't even know where it is, what circle of hell the King Dork project is right now. I learned pretty quickly not to count on anything, although it came very close to being made, not once, but twice. There was just things fell through at the last possible second in either case. I mean, there was even one of them, there was even a shooting schedule and stuff. I went to bed one night thinking, hey, this is great. I'm going to be rich and famous and I won't have to, worry about paying the rent for a little bit. And I was sort of rubbing my hands together in anticipation. And then the next day I just woke up and there's a message saying, oh yeah, it's not happening. So you can't count on anything. I wouldn't be surprised if I never hear anything about it again. I also wouldn't be surprised if I got a call tomorrow saying, we're moving ahead and here's a big bag of money. I would be surprised, I'll admit, but it is within the realm of the things that happen in the crazy Hollywood world, but I don't have any specific information about it.
Well, I would hope, one, that yes, it does get made, and two, that you do get those big bags of money and that they look like those big cartoon bags with the dollar sign on them, just bulging at the seams with coins and
that would
bills.
Be really cool. Yeah, I would like to be paid in gold coins. I think that would be really, really cool. I don't know. That wasn't in any of my option contracts though.
Weird. All right. Yeah. So to summarize, you have been working on this. We can enjoy this on vinyl, which is, I love, you probably see records behind me.
Yeah.
I love just the immersion factor of listening to records. No one gets up mid-side. You're in it. When you put a record on, you are locked into that artist's vision for at least 20 minutes at a time. I love it. I love having it. I love holding it. I love playing vinyl. I love that you did this. MTX Forever is the decades spanning retrospective of the Mr. T experience. You also just recently re-released the Mr. T experience and the Women Who Love Them, and more reissues, re-releases, remasters to come. I'm in Chicago. We love you here in Chicago.
Yeah, it's always been it's been our best city for many, many years now. Best meaning most enthusiastic, reliably present audiences at shows. And so, yeah, we've been, this goes back all the way to maybe not to In the 80s, not so much, but certainly in the 90s, it was the strongest pop punk, place I think there was. I mean, we did really well in London and Chicago. That was
That's
kind
awesome.
of the main places. In the earlier, it was very marginal, kind of little. There was a place called the Exit.
Sure.
You were aware of that? Yeah, I remember doing well, at least a handful of very underattended, very sloppy, very drunken, very scary shows there. Is it still there?
When you played there, it was probably on Well Street. It's since moved
Uh-huh.
to North
Okay.
Avenue. My first time seeing it was at Metro, maybe 98. It was
Oh yeah,
probably
yeah.
Revenge's Suite, that era.
Right.
But I know you played
Yeah,
Fireside
we've
Bowl.
had
I mean,
a
you've
lot
been
of
all
time.
around the city.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
find Chicago baffling though. I'm sure I know you're right. We've been around the city, but it's a complete puzzle. I would need, and the map doesn't help me. So you need a local to show you around.
All right. We'll feed you too. When this whole thing lifts, come here. We'll feed you. We'll show
It's a
you
great
around.
place to eat.
Hell yes. And
Yeah.
you're on the West Coast. You probably eat responsibly and have like a normal metabolism. We'll fatten you up. We'll get you out here and we'll.
Sounds great.
All right, I'm going to stop the Facebook Live. Thank you, everybody who's been watching there.